it's Esther here from Balance and Breathe. And firstly, sorry for being late getting here tonight. It's been a bit of a busy sort of evening with, well, lots of Doctor Who with my son. We've had a lovely day. We've been out walking and cycling quite a lot today, so I'm quite tired. And we watched Doctor Who before bed. So I'm here now, and I'm just going to read one chapter tonight from Bent Back into Shape, Beating Addiction Through Yoga. And I've chosen to read the chapter on stress and addiction. Last month was Stress Awareness Month, and I did quite a lot of writing about stress. It's quite a relevant issue. The World Health Organization have described stress as being the health epidemic of the 21st century, and I think that it's a huge problem. It's a huge killer. It is linked to the 6 main highest the killer diseases, the biggest problems, the biggest illnesses that kill people throughout the whole world. They all have stress as a contributory factor. Heart disease, diabetes, liver disease is one, stroke is another. I don't remember the others, but it is a big problem. And the thing about stress is that most of the stress that causes us problems today is preventable. It is hugely preventable. And this is where yoga is incredibly beneficial, because it teaches us coping strategies. And this is something that I've been sharing a lot about on my website. So if you want to know any more about things like breathing and relaxation and how different yogic concepts can help with stress, then do check out balanceandbreathe.co.uk. There's loads of blogs. If you search, you can look at the tags Stress Awareness Month, and I think I wrote lots of blog posts last month about stress. So do check those out. Some of them I'm really pleased with. I'm really happy with how some of them came out. So I'm going to read this chapter about stress and addiction. It's a very short chapter, and I think if I was to read this now, having done a lot of looking at stress in a lot more detail since I wrote this chapter, I would probably put a lot more detail in here. So it is very short. There's lots I would add to it now, but here we go. Stress and addiction are close partners in crime. Of course, it's possible to experience high stress without developing any addiction. And addiction doesn't always come directly from stressful experiences, but there are very close links between the two. Stress can lead us into behaviors that we can become addicted to. Once we are in addiction, the search for the source of the addiction can cause stress, as can the withdrawal symptoms. The two states feed each other continuously, a truly destructive symbiotic relationship that goes on within our mind, but that we feel completely powerless to control. Stress is an incredibly powerful force within us, which exercises tremendous control over our physical and emotional state. It is an evolutionary necessity, a vital function of the nervous system, designed to help us deal with life or death situations, such as a threat to our life. When we encounter or think we have encountered a threat that affects our safety, our sympathetic nervous system, flight or fight, is activated. The brain sends signals to the nervous system that there is a threat, and various hormones are produced. These include adrenaline, cortisol, glucagon, I don't know how you say that, aldosterone, and noradrenaline. Combined, they create the stress state in the body and mind. They give us a quick burst of energy so that we can flee to escape. They lower our pain threshold so that we can run or fight even if injured. They increase the blood flow and the heart rate so that the blood is circulating around the muscles faster, enabling them to function better. They widen air in the passages in the lungs, which allows us to take in more oxygen with each breath. They widen the pupils to allow greater sensory perception. They raise the blood pressure and glucose levels in the bloodstream. These responses are designed to meet the needs of the individual to deal with a clear and present threat. Swami Kitananda uses the example of a saber-toothed tiger. An ancient man encountering a saber-toothed tiger would have had a very real threat posed to him. his stress response would have either caused him to flee, freeze, or fight. He would have either killed the tiger, fled from the tiger, or the tiger would have killed him. One way or another, the stress response would have only been needed for a very short space of time. Provided he survived the encounter, he would return to a calm state of mind and body. The parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode, would return, maintaining the balance of his body. Unfortunately for modern man, our stress response happens whether the threat is real or imagined. Our brain responds to a perceived threat as though it is real. In our Western culture, we no longer have to worry about saber-toothed tigers attacking us or any other daily peril. The brain and nervous system do not know this, though. Our perception shapes our reality, not the other way round. Our minds are bombarded with information from our senses all the time. We cannot possibly process all this information, but our subconscious mind does. It takes nanoseconds for the mind to work out whether we need to deal with the situation immediately or if it can be left in the subconscious. We experience stressful experiences in everyday life, and our body and mind reacts accordingly. For example, we are all familiar with the feeling of fear that we get walking through a dark lane. This is a helpful time to be aware there might actually be danger lurking in the shadows. Most of the time, though, it is simply our fear that something might be there that creates the stress response. Road rage has become a modern-day phenomenon, but it is another example of those innate survival instincts. Take the following incident. A driver gets cut up. The incident could have resulted in an accident, but it didn't. The driver perceives the threat and his body reacts. His heart rate escalates and his blood pressure rises. The accident didn't happen, though, and all this pent-up energy has nowhere to go. The driver is filled with fury instead and becomes enraged, hence the term road rage. The consequences for anyone living life at this level of stress are very damaging. A body and mind cannot be healthy and well when under massive pressure. In yoga, there is a concept known as Adi Vyadi that tells us that there is a very deep connection that exists between the mind and the body. If we do not deal with the problems in the mind, they will manifest in the body. We can all recognize that when we feel stressed, it affects our ability to eat, to sleep, to relax, but the effects go even deeper. Our sensitivity to pain and other sense information are impacted as our endocrine system keeps us permanently in flight or fight mode. It affects the heart rate, the respiratory system, and our blood pressure. The medical profession recognized that stress is a major contributing factor in conditions such as asthma, IBS, heart disease, and stroke, to name but a few. In the workplace, stress is the third highest cause of absence. I would suggest that the true figure of this is actually far higher, as stress is likely to be a factor in a large number of musculoskeletal, minor back pain, and drink or drug-related issues, as well as the non-genuine absences. I, for example, going off from the book a little bit, but I took time off work claiming to have headaches, bad stomachs, whatever. But stress was the reason why I was doing it. But I wouldn't admit that because I was scared I'd lose my job. Adding to the stress. So anyway, that's a problem that a lot of people face. And back to the book. There is a stigma associated with stress, particularly in the workplace. Fear of losing one's job might mean that stress is not actually admitted to as reasons for absence. And I know in my own case that I rarely admitted that I wasn't in work due to stress. I invented reasons for my absence but wouldn't admit that I was struggling to cope. And a lot of the time the reasons why I wasn't in work was because my stress was leading me to drink every night. And I didn't want to admit that either. Some types of stress are beneficial if controlled appropriately. We have an impending deadline. We have to be stressed enough to focus on the task. But if the stress levels get too high, it actually impedes concentration because we become consumed with what might go wrong if we don't meet the deadline. In this situation, our attention is drawn to the negative, and any problems we perceive get bigger and bigger. Stress and our ability to deal with it is a major factor in the development of addiction. The sheer scale of the addiction problem in Western society and the range of addictions demonstrate the result of people's unprecedented and unmanaged stress levels. There is an increasing body of research that there is an increasing body of addiction research that is looking at the effects of addiction on the mind, the factors that make addiction more likely, and the factors that influence and promote recovery. And that's the end of that chapter. I don't know if I'll read another one. I don't think I'll read another one right now. Those of you that are watching, would you like me to read another one? I could read another little short one before I go. In fact, a nice chapter here about awareness and judgment, which ends with a bit of an exercise. So I'll read that one. So, I'll read the chapter on awareness and judgment. If yoga is a way of integrating all aspects of our life together, then we need to start by developing awareness. We cannot begin to improve or change anything unless we know where we are. Yoga helps us to gently take ourselves apart and put ourselves back together again, leaving out the bits that didn't work. This is certainly what I did, and was the first step was to look closely at who I was, something I had avoided for years by hiding behind alcohol. The yoga path is not an easy one to tread. There may be a lot of pain along the way as we begin to discover long hidden truths about ourselves. It is important that we do this inquiry into ourselves with compassion and kindness for ourselves, and the ability to reach out for support when our discoveries become so painful that we can't move forward. I had several moments through my searching when I didn't feel I wanted to carry on with it, as the revelations were difficult to bear. Ultimately, though, pursuit of the discoveries eventually led me to release and healing, but I did need friends, family, and my new yoga family to lean on. Yoga teaches us that we are one with the rest of creation. Through living a yogic life, we can develop a clear awareness of this oneness, instead of feeling that we are separate from everything else. This feeling of separation is what drives much of our unhappiness. Our disconnection from nature and each other is the root cause of the biggest evils in the world. A bit of a dramatic statement there. I don't remember writing that. Yoga has been described as conscious evolution. In order to live a yogic life, you have to embark on a voyage of personal evolution with consciousness. You have to be actively aware of where you have started from, what you hope to achieve, and each new, often very subtle development along the journey. This requires awareness, and it is known as the fourfold awareness. The first stage of this awareness is consciousness of the body, of what the body needs and what it is doing. This is where we begin to notice our unconscious habits. It means noticing the breath, noticing movement, being aware of speech and all the body's natural activities. It means taking care of our physical selves and ensuring that good nutrition and hydration is provided. We need to keep our bodies well rested and exercised so that sufficient oxygen is allowed to enter the system and that waste products can be effectively removed. It also means not inflicting harmful substances or practices to damage the body. So alcohol, caffeine, processed food and sugars, polluted air, water and food should be avoided or minimized. The more we pay attention to the body, the more we become attuned to its needs. I believe that this is part of what happened with me. Before I stopped drinking, I was taking better care of the body and paying more attention to it. This meant I became increasingly aware of the negative impact drinking was having on me compared to the way my body and mind felt when I didn't drink. This comparison was a very big influence. Why would I choose to do something that made me feel so awful when I had other tools at my disposal to deal with my emotions and could experience my mind and body feeling so much healthier? It's very important that we develop this awareness objectively and that we do not judge ourselves as we notice things. The same is true for our judgment of others. Yoga and happiness are judgment-free zones. The second stage of the fourfold awareness is an awareness of the tremendous power that the emotions hold over physical well-being of the body. When we know the extent to which negative emotions have a harmful effect on the body, and vice versa, then we can take action to limit the negative and embrace, encourage and enhance the positive. Negative emotions vary in the intensity of the harmful effects on the body. Envy, jealousy, hate, greed, malice, and possessiveness are the most damaging emotions, while embarrassment, aversion, fear, and escapism are secondary. With practice, you can develop sufficient awareness to notice when these emotions start to rise and control them. Without this awareness, most people are controlled by them. The old adage of take a deep breath and count to 10 can sometimes be all that is needed. Sometimes maybe a longer count isn't called for. From my own personal experience, it also helps greatly to realize that we can't control everyone or every situation that we find ourselves in. Sometimes you just have to let things be as they are, pick your battles wisely, and not take things too personally. I know that's really hard. The third stage of the fourfold awareness is an awareness of the mind, in particular the effects that the mind has on emotions and then in turn the body. If the mind is allowed to dwell on a negative thought, this will turn into a negative emotion. Through regular yoga practices, including asanas, pranayama and awareness, we can gain a new, attentive perspective of the mind, which can lead to a higher connection. The fourth stage of the fourfold awareness is samadhi, or enlightenment. This is awareness of awareness and is the ultimate aim of yoga, true connection with the divine, although we may still be very many lifetimes away from achieving this. Developing this awareness is a deep practice in itself, but an incredibly rewarding one. Throughout your day, stop and notice your breath. Notice the way your body moves. Notice the thoughts that pass through your mind. Really notice. Notice every aspect of the movement, action, thought. When you find an emotion rising up in you, notice it. Reflect on it. Do this without judgment. There is no good and bad in awareness. There is only awareness. When you notice an aspect of your behavior, thoughts, words that you dislike, simply allow the observation to settle. Don't beat yourself up about it. I am painfully aware of how much I swear, and I don't like it anymore. Years of this unconscious habit is hard to eliminate completely, but with constant awareness, the amount I swear is now much reduced and continues to reduce further. And that's still true. I recommend writing and journaling as a way to record your observations of yourself. At the end of each day, spend some time looking back on your day and reflect on things that have happened, not simply listing events that occurred throughout the day, but thinking about why you acted the way you did, why you said the things you said, why you thought the things you did. This is a good practice to develop, and I would recommend you get into the practice of keeping some sort of diary or journal as you progress along your journey through life. As an initial exercise to help you reflect on where you are at the start of your journey, a good practice is to write an essay or letter to yourself. In the first month's teacher training homework, we had to write an essay entitled, Who Am I? This was a fantastic start to my journey of self-discovery. I had a few revelations about myself in this journey, this essay alone. If you wish to do this, I recommend you sit down with a sheet of paper and a pen and just write. You could either write an essay with the same title I had, or maybe write a letter of introduction to someone. Pretend someone, of course. If someone else was writing a letter of introduction about you, what would they write? These thoughts should always be honest and non-judgmental. Bear in mind that if someone was doing this, they wouldn't focus on your faults, but they would tell another person about your good qualities as well. If you are going to do this exercise, it is important that you don't focus on the bits of yourself that you don't like. Find the positive and be kind about the negative. If you struggle to find the positive, find someone who knows and cares. Find someone you know who cares about you and ask them. Sometimes we struggle to see the likable parts of ourselves, so it helps to get someone else's perspective. Becoming aware of our thoughts, breath, movement, actions and motivations can lead us to identify areas that we need or want to change. It's important that you don't judge yourself for these areas. You've been living unconsciously for most of your life. You are at the start of a journey to wake up, so forgive yourself for your faults. And I've got faults in commas there. It's not really faults. And know that you can improve almost every aspect of yourself with conscious effort. This is the first step of the journey. If you were embarking on a mountain hike, you wouldn't berate yourself for not being at the top when you had just left your house, would you? The journey to a yogic life can be likened to a mountain hike in other ways. It is work. It takes time. It requires dedication and deep breaths. It can make you want to turn back and give up. But if you persevere, the views along the way are spectacular, and the journey full of joy, wonder, and reasons to be happy. We are going to take the journey together and not worry about the destination. And that's the end of that chapter. That was the chapter about awareness. And it's interesting that I chose that one today, because I've been doing quite a spot of reflecting and making a few more discoveries about myself over the last couple of days, which have been very interesting and very useful, and very helpful indeed. So it is a really, really helpful thing to write down. I've been listening to some personal development audiobooks that have given me some insights and given me some ideas, which I've then taken away and reflected on. So this idea of awareness, developing awareness of what we do with our body, developing awareness of what goes on in our minds, it is so powerful when we start to look. And when you start to look and you start to notice something that you don't like about yourself, or something that you wish was different, you almost can't help but change it. You've kind of got to eventually. It doesn't happen immediately, but it will happen, because you're just going to naturally do it. The more we notice things, the more we're aware of things, the more we're able to control what we do. So I am now going to go to bed, because it is past my bedtime. And don't forget, if you're watching this, that tomorrow and until Wednesday, the book Bent Back into Shape that I've just been reading is free on Kindle. Tomorrow is 1 year since I first published it, when I was in India. So a year ago now I was in India, melting. And it's going to be free on Amazon on a Kindle only. Can't make the paperbacks free, I'm afraid, but I can make the Kindle free. So please go and download it. I will put a link to it in the comments here. It's only on Amazon.com and .co.uk. I don't think it's anywhere else in the world. I think it's only on those two sites. I haven't looked, but I only set it up for those two sites. I was only given the option to set it up for those two sites, so that's all I did. So apologies to anyone who can't get it free. But if you do read it, if you have read it, if you do read it and you enjoy it, please get in touch, let me know, and I hope that you enjoy it. And if you like it, please leave me a review, because Amazon likes that, and so do I. So yeah, that's all for tonight. I will be back tomorrow with another chapter. I'm gonna turn up earlier tomorrow, and I'm going to read the chapter on the yamas and the niyamas. It's a very long one, so I didn't want to do it tonight. So have a wonderful sleep, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.